In this week's episode, Homer becomes a power-hungry crossing guard. He amasses powerful weapons, a kick-ass team of misfits, and goes toe-to-toe with the police, the TSA, and the meter maids. And I'm going to be breaking all of this down and more in my review of this season 35 premiere, but be warned, I am going to jump straight into my thoughts here, so there's gonna be some major spoilers. So, much like the last season's premiere, we get another Homer-centric episode, this time entitled Homer's Crossing. It opens with Otto's trippy adventure, which I think has a mix of references. I could see Pegasus, Aragon from Marvel's The Defenders, and their 1983 film Fire and Ice. It was brilliantly animated, and I genuinely loved seeing Otto kick some green troll ass. Weird timing though, as it was only a few weeks ago that I released a video all about his wasted potential in The Simpsons, and ironically, this seems to be where his contribution really ends, escaping into oblivion in a drug-induced state. And just to be a bit of a comic book guy nerd here, but it would have been really cool for The Simpsons to reference their own episode, 3 Men and a Comic Book. In this season 2 episode, we learn all about Busman, Otto's own superhero creation, and it would have really fitted in well here, but oh well, it was still an awesome scene and Otto did look super cool.
Soar high, my golden friend, for today we die another day.
Otto's disappearance leaves Springfield Elementary without a bus or a bus driver. Therefore, Superintendent Chalmers and Skinner ask the parents to help make sure that the kids get to school okay by volunteering to be a part of the crossing guard team. And Homer, who typically shows absolutely no interest in school meetings whatsoever, accidentally volunteers in a way that feels genuine to his character.
Dear God! No! Stop! Yield!
Later on at work, while complaining about this to Lenny, we learn the shocking truth that Homer is in fact not the real safety inspector. Basically, a nuclear meltdown occurs and his station is none the wiser, giving us the reason why he's able to sleep on the job all darn day. Also, I have to say that I really enjoyed this scene where Mr. Burns jumps in to help. It seems that gone are the days when Mr. Burns isn't aware of Homer's incompetence, seeing as he's created a whole role just to cover it up.
We kind of made it so that just my console does that now.
And yeah, even though it didn't really correspond to what we know of their relationship, at all, this scene still felt fun and a good use of the characters. Not to mention that it nicely set up the narrative that Homer feels redundant, useless, and powerless.
Oh, this whole time I thought I mattered, but I don't and I never did.
This is then built upon in Homer's home life or bedroom life, with him underperforming sexually. So all in all, there's a ton of ammo to make him more susceptible into becoming what he'd become. Basically, there's a good build up to the story here. So the next morning, Homer begrudgingly starts his shift. And at the beginning, he embarrasses his kids, is bullied by freaking Martin and Milhouse, but then he saves little Ralph Wiggum. By the way, I'm becoming very fond of the general roasting of Ralph while he's completely unaware.
To save one pumpkin-headed little boy.
Even old Gil's getting in on the action now.
You just saved this balding little scamp's life!
Homer's quick but heroic moment gives him the purpose he craves.
You hear that, world? Homer Simpson matters!
And he feels even more appreciated when he gets a glowing feature in Kent Brockman's Chicken Soup for the Soul. And this little news segment is a small detail that I really loved, because it just really sums up all of those wholesome news stories that sandwich between the heavy stuff.
We wrap up tonight's nightly reading of horrors with a new optimistic segment I like to call Chicken Soup for the News.
It was also a really nice way to incorporate Kent's character in a way that gets him out of the studio, and this character utilization is a consistent strength in this episode. Speaking of which, it was really good to see the punching bags of Springfield given some power. Yet, Quimby is so impressed by Homer that he gives the crossing guards the funding to expand and get a fancy new uniform, which was bound to go to Homer's head. So yes, this then transpires into Homer and co. not actually helping anyone apart from their own egos.
Now, I'm not telling you how to do your job. Are you telling me how to do my job?
And yes, this idea has been done. A lot. And yeah, I mean a lot. Homer donning a new uniform to take over public safety or authority and misusing it is basically becoming an episode theme by now. We've had Papa's Got a Brand New Badge, Trash of the Titans, Coming to America, and Crook and Ladder, but the difference between them and this episode is the reason why he went into the new job. In those, he pissed off the garbage men, took over from the lazy and incompetent cops, and injured the entire fire department. There was no real emotional draw to him taking on these roles, whereas in this episode, it was his real thirst to feel needed, appreciated, and that he has a purpose. Therefore, this episode also reminded me of Season 17's See Homer Run. This is where he becomes the safety salamander, all to make his daughter proud of him. The episode also has elements of Season 1's Homer's Odyssey, where his role of becoming a crusader for citizen safety literally comes after saving his family from another speeding vehicle. These 3 episodes share this sense of sentiment, and with Homer's Crossing, it has that other edge where it focused on Homer's own wanting to be appreciated. He had his own selfish reasons. Therefore, unlike the niceties of See Homer Run and Homer's Odyssey, Homer quickly became a flawed hero, hungry for power. Yep, Homer quickly becomes a twisted and corrupted crossing guard. It seems that as soon as Homer got a little bit of coverage, he became this power-hungry leader. And for me personally, when he had this little spat with Wiggum, this is when Homer takes advantage of his power, and really, he kind of felt a bit like jerk-ass Homer. But hey, at least the punching bags came along for the ride too, and it was really funny hearing Mole Man get some sweet, long overdue payback.
Gun safety and body cam off.
Speaking of which, it seems that all of the outcasts of Springfield are part of this super cool crew. Squeaky Voice T, Nelson's mom, Disco Stew, and with them they get a super cool CSI spoof montage. The editing and visuals on this are awesome, and it's always fun seeing the characters in a different light. And speaking of seeing the characters differently, I liked what they did with Marge. Here, she was seduced by Homer's newfound power, rather than trying to push against it. It was very refreshing not to see her fall into her usual voice of reason shtick.
My big, strong leader in the streets and in the sheets, the bed sheets.
It just felt that the characters were a bit more fun, and seeing Homer and Marge like this, it was cute. They had that chemistry, it was nice. All in all, Homer didn't actually feel any remorse from this corrupted power, and why should he? He has his army, his wife's sexual satisfaction, and no real calling to go back to the life he had. This makes it differ from the other episodes I've compared it to, because he didn't really mess up, get caught out, or simply give up the role to someone else. Therefore, I did wonder how they were going to close this episode off and return everything back to the status quo, up until Homer's very quick and very short comeuppance served up by,
Hey everybody, I'm back.
Annoyingly, this bit did feel a bit disjointed for my liking, and seeing Homer all busted up like this from a bit of dangerous driving was ironic, yes, but it did feel a bit too much too soon, and a bit too zany. Like we didn't get the sentimental ending like in See Homer Run, or the funny ending that we see in Trash of the Titans after he ballses up being the sanitation commissioner. It just felt as if Homer could very easily return to being this powerful crossing guard character. We don't really feel like he learned anything. But then again, if it was too similar to those episodes, I would be criticizing it for that as well. But hey, the episode had to end somehow with Homer returning to the status quo, but in my eyes, it felt a bit too brash. So, how did The Simpsons hammer home that Homer wants to return to his old life? Well, through this short scene where Lisa tells him,
"The only tool you have is a hammer, then everything starts to look like a nail."
Homer then sees himself as the hammer and his family as the nails, so here I kind of felt like the writers were trying to show us that he was satisfied with just fixing or helping his own family, rather than the entire world. Overall, I feel it was a really strong episode to open the season, and there were a lot of welcome laughs here, more so than what I remember from the last couple of episodes of The Simpsons. And a big highlight for me, other than the consistent Ralph roasting, was how well the other characters were used. And seeing Springfield shine like this in the premiere really does set a nice tone for what's to come. It felt lighthearted, it felt tangible, and the characters blended nicely into the story. It also felt exciting that the writers felt that they could really drift away from Marge being this voice of reason character and Mr. Burns actually being useful and aware of Homer's incompetence. And hell, existence. All in all, the story was set up really nicely, from the building of Homer's feelings of redundancy and then into his new role before turning it around and becoming an anti-hero. But yeah, for me, the ending just wasn't satisfying enough, but it was a very, very strong start. So for this episode, I'll give it 4 out of 5 stars. So, have you watched this episode yet, and what did you think of it? Let me know in the comments and I'll look forward to chatting to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.